Have you ever wanted to commit mass genocide? Well, your prayers have been answered in Magicka 2. Welcome back to another slice of the Breadlog. And this time we are eating Magicka 2. I am FredBread from Backlog Bread, as many of you who have been watching are aware of. And FredBread is me. I am a gamer. We game. We game so hard. I go through these different games and eat them one at a time and let you all know on whether or not you should play them immediately, especially if they're in your own Breadlog. I've been slowly collecting many different games and they've just been accumulating into that Breadlog, each slice making that loaf of bread bigger and bigger. And now it's time for me to finally play all these games and let you guys know on which ones I thought were games I should have played earlier or ones that should have, maybe have never been bought. So for Magicka 2, it was bought more recently, actually pretty recent compared to most of the other games in the Breadlog. It was bought in the March 2026 spring sale. I guess that was also with the first video I did as well, with the SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated video. So the reason I decided that I was going to eat this game from the Breadlog is because I had eaten the first game and I was like, this was kind of fun. I remember this being really fun when I was younger. Let's play it. Let's play the second one. It'll be fun. Yeah. Woo. Oh god, I'm so lonely. Besides myself enjoying the first game, I also thought that, some other pieces of bread should be eaten before others, and I think that this piece of bread should be played, I think, earlier and eaten earlier than the other ones. And as well as I had eaten a couple of the other pieces of bread, which prior to this were a few horror-themed ones, which is spooky, but it's not usually something I'm into, and I just was like, alright, we gotta change it up. Let's not play any more horror. We can do something else. I don't want to scare myself all the time. I don't think that's the best idea for me. Horror is interesting, but it's not me. I am not great with horror. I just watched Obsession recently. Oh my god. That horror messed me up. That messed me up. It got my butter all over the place. Butter was everywhere. I was dying in the theater. Luckily, I was resurrected by Mrs. FredBread. Still though, great movie. Really messed me up. Yeah, that was cool. Anyways, in Magicka 2, you are a wizard that is the literal embodiment of chaotic neutral. Basically, you can be a demon and hurt all the NPCs you want, even if they are never going to fight you back. Or you can be just neutral. You can see them, you can maybe hurt them, or just walk by your way and fight the people who do attack you. I don't know if that might be neutral, or whatever that middle square is. I don't know. I think that what's that middle square? True neutral. I still think it's chaotic neutral because later on the wizard you play as doesn't talk, and because of that gets himself doing things and fighting people he doesn't need to. But he says fuck it, or I guess he doesn't say fuck it. He just uses his staff to say fuck it, we ball, and decides to kill everyone and anyone. I guess, why not? I mean, if I had the power, if we all had the power, let's be real here. I don't know if we would all end up like superheroes with good morals. I think we'd be a little more like The Boys. Yeah, that would be a great world. I don't know. The Boys was a great show until the end, but still. Oh, not a great world that would be for all of us. And Magicka 2 is a co-op game, and you could play with 3 other players and yourself, so 4 in total. And for sure, this game really meant for you to at least play with one other person, because oh boy, it's not great. So you're not exactly playing as the wizards from the first group, and that was seen in the initial game. You kind of play as like the ancestors, or maybe even like weird relatives who survived, because apparently there was a big wizard war and everybody died except a few, and you're one of them, but you're not like one of them from before. You're like a new wizard with new morals, but there are no new morals. You're still killing people and doing whatever Vlad the non-vampire says. Blah blah blah. Because that's how he talks like a vampire and he acts like a vampire, but I don't think he's a vampire. I think they insinuate that he's not a vampire. And he is the leader of the school, and he tasks you with finding this prophesized child who will save the world. But due to some twists and turns, that story changes a little bit. You know, it's a little change-a-roo. Okay, so the game is mostly played with your mouse, pretty standard, and it's played with Q, W, E, R, A, S, D, F keys. So all of you probably right now are looking at your keyboard or at your phone, and you're like, what the hell? Those are like League of Legends type keys, but with extra keys. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that each of those keys represents a different power that you can use to fight or use to help aid you in your quest. And these different powers include the standard, you know, fire, earth, wind, water, but also includes life, death, electricity, and ice. And it's interesting because some powers you can't use at the same time, so you can't use life and death. They're two opposites, they don't work. Surprisingly, you can use fire and water, but that creates steam. And other ones like water and electricity, they don't work together as a spell, or they do, but it's weird. And you use those powers to aid you in fighting the monsters, or to heal yourself, or if you are playing with people, the other compatriots you are playing with. Actually, your other comrades that you're playing with. Your comrade. Because just like in the USSR, when people were calling each other comrade and kind of like, oh, you're my comrade, but I'll throw you under the bus because you do not worship Stalin. It's kind of similar here. I know that the other players could save you, or they could fuck you up and kill you. So, you know, same ordeal here. They're your comrades, not really people who you want to aid you in your quest if they are not a good person, if they lean more towards the true chaotic side. And on your quest, you will encounter many different NPCs, not like named ones, more just random, literally random NPCs. But it's interesting because they all speak like a fake language, or more like gibberish. I don't know, I might include some of that gibberish in here. It's not like me trying to be like, I don't know what they're saying. I literally know that there are some words I can pinpoint, but I don't know what it is or what the term is. If you put a bunch of languages together and you just kind of spat it out and expect people to know. I'm thinking it's gibberish. I could be wrong. If you know what that is, please let me know, because I don't know, and I don't want to offend.
Greta Nutterbank, at je welkom de Utendependerfest. Zeker in de quizerchamp, je var der man.
Oh, na berry is scaring there. The dressy dem and extinct or destructive easy. Clever who?
Je var det be avfall på juggernatten för natter. Spatsen jackson naxte man.
And they all speak this like interesting kind of mix of languages, and it's kind of funny because it feels like you can understand them, but you don't understand them. It's almost like Animal Crossing words and sounds, but a lot more recognizable. And then the animals that you see are all made out of wood. But the funny thing is, or maybe the sadistic thing is that when you hit them with any sort of damaging spell, they will explode into all the bloody and gory parts that composes of them, not wood pieces. So, are they really wood? Or are animals just like that? Food for thought. So, we reach our section of the video where we talk about what parts of the game aged quite well.
It's wizard time, motherfucker! Fireball!
Some parts of the game that aged well are comedy, unique spell mechanics, and enemy variation. So starting us off with comedy, basically the whole show is like a shitpost, I would say. Like, you are this random ass wizard tasked with this quest, and on the way you meet random NPCs who spout nonsense, and you deal with nonsense. Like, you meet basically like some parodies of well-known characters, like David Attenborough. For those who don't know who that is, he's the guy who you mostly hear on a lot of like nature documentaries. He speaks like, and in the wild, we see the wizard shooting his staff and killing the innocent NPCs. Kind of like that. He speaks like that, and they had their own version in there. I don't remember. I think he spoke like that. Yeah, he definitely had some sort of accent in there that made him sound more like his real counterpart. And they also had a Jon Snow parody. I think he went by John Frost. To be honest, I never watched Game of Thrones, and Mrs. FredBread keeps yelling at me to watch it, but to have that in there is so like unique, and it just adds to this like kind of funny, you know, laid back feeling from the game. And the spell mechanics too really do create a great variation in gameplay. So you can combine many different spells to do whatever you really want. And on top of these having you do whatever you want, which includes shooting out beams or making, like, giving yourself a shield of rock or anything related to the other elements, or healing yourself, or shooting out like ice spikes, or creating mines in the ground, or even imbuing your melee weapon with different powers. It's one of the many different ways that you can go about accomplishing your task in the world. And all these different ways that help you complete those tasks kind of demonstrate that everybody can have a unique style, and while at the same time that's great, it's a little kind of bothering because, like, I have a gripe with that, which we'll get to, but I'm gonna keep that to myself. But these spell mechanics are just so different and so niche, and I think they work so well, especially for a co-op style game. Like, you know, you can have one friend kind of doing one thing, another friend doing another thing, and then you doing your thing, and all kind of aiding each other in taking down the big baddie, even though the big baddie there's some complications with that, and it's weird. Also, by the way, this is from the same people who created all of the, like, Hearts of Iron, Stellaris, and Europa Universalis games, Paradox. So I'm just gonna leave that one right there, because that's a weird one to have them create this kind of game where they're mostly based doing a lot of games where you paint a map. So what gave them the right to do this? What right? Next is enemy variation. The game slowly introduces you to new enemies, and as it should. I mean, it should be that way. Every enemy has a different weakness, and every enemy has a different strength. So if you're using ice on, like, ice damage on an ice creature, you're going to expect that's doing literally nothing or literally tickling him. You're tickling the enemy. He's looking at you and he's like, this wizard has been stopping our forces and yet he's tickling me? Yeah. So it forces you to not only play the game and think about how you're using your spells, but in the way that your enemies might be affected by them. So don't use ice on an ice person, or don't use fire on somebody who seems to be from hell, because apparently I think there are some creatures that are fire resistant and they seem to be from hell, but they're not from hell. So don't do that. And it's the same thing, like if you're out in the rain, I know this is not an enemy, but the rain is my enemy. In that game, the rain was my enemy. In the rain, if you try to use electricity spells, you will electrocute yourself and kill yourself. I don't have a masochistic tendency. Maybe I do. I don't know. But apparently, if you do that, you will kill yourself. There are many actual ways to kill yourself in this game, and I've done that quite a few times. It's also because I'm kind of panicking half the time when I'm using these spells. And next is our section about what didn't age well.
This is the worst.
Strap in, folks. Strap in, my fellow bread loaves, my fellow breadcrumbs, my crummies, my crumbs. So the things that I had personal gripes with, and I think most people would, due to the age and just how this game plays, is the enemy damage, the lack of customization, and no sort of experience or level up system. So starting with enemy damage. These enemies hit like a truck. Oh my god. At the beginning, maybe the first 2 to 3 chapters, with 9 being the total, the enemies, they do damage. They're enough to be like, okay, that was a bit. And then by the end, it's like, you better have a shield up, or they're gonna jam their fucking sword right up your ass. Or you better have some sort of healing, constant healing, because if you don't, then you're gonna have all of these monsters jumping on top of you and pounding the fuck out of you, and you can't do anything about it. And it gets really tedious at times, because when you do take damage, you can heal yourself, but the game literally states that healing yourself is less than healing others. So it's like, ooh, you have no friends? That sucks. It's like having your fucking having the little like having a treat dangled in front of you. You know, it's like kind of having somebody be like, ooh, you can't have it, like it's right there. And it sucks. It's bad because you're constantly running around spamming heal and just hoping that nobody catches up. And luckily by the end you get different robes that allow you to be faster and move quicker, so that you can outrun your enemies while healing, so that you can eventually do damage. And then with those robes is the part of the game that is not great, is the lack of customization. I know I don't like to bring up any previous games in my backlog tasting, but I do need to mention that in the first game, there was a bit more customization to each of the wizards. You had more robes, you had more staves. Staves? Staves. Staves. I think it's staves? Staves. Staves? I think it's staves. You had a lot more options for staves. You had more options for melee weapons. And this time around, I didn't get to own all of them, but there were a couple that I was missing. But still, it didn't really make up for this lack of unique items. like most of the different staves. Most of the different staves. Watch how this is so wrong. Staves. So the staves and robes were basically like, yeah, here's protection or extra strength for fire and death, but your health and ice spells are weakened. Yeah. And it's not really that unique. I remember the first game having some unique portions about them, or had some part of the robe and spell that made, or robe or staff that made it unique, that you wanted to like find these items, or you wanted to use them, or exit to the main menu to use them. But that wasn't really the case here. It kind of was like, use one thing for a boost, a big boost, the biggest of boosters, booster, get to the booster, and then a deficit in some of the other parts. And it's either like you're going to be very well in all the healing and be deficit in your damage, or you're going to be super good in your damage and have a deficit in healing. There wasn't really that much uniqueness or any sort of customization or any way of making your character different. And then that goes into the level up system. It's not there. Like, it's not there. You'd expect that maybe from the first game to the second game that they would maybe put that in so players can have a system. No, they didn't. So it's like you're playing the whole game with the same 8 spells with no sort of like maybe just boost to spells. Like, say your friend is like, oh, I love to heal. I love spells and shields, and he's like the toughest guy, right? He's like your tank, and he's like, I want to do this. I'm big and buff, and then there's no way he can be like, oh, I'm gonna spec into that, because fuck you. That's why the game was like, nah, we don't give you that. Here's a little drip of water, but we're not gonna give you enough to quench your thirst. And then if your other friend was like, yeah, I want to go into like unique spell casting, because there is unique spell casting, like you can have unique spells and you can get different focus to help you cast them faster. And was there any sort of upgrade system to help this person who wants to use those spells quicker? Nope. Could they have put that in? Probably. And I don't see why not, because you can have multiple characters, I'm pretty sure, multiple saves, and these could carry over into different games. Or they could have made it so that you create your wizard a little bit more unique and then have it tied to the save. Yeah, I don't get it. So this lack of level up just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why they don't include that. And I'm gonna complain about this other thing. I didn't want to. I'm gonna complain about it anyway. Any time you are surrounded by enemies, all the gameplay is, when you're playing by yourself, is running around in a damn circle. I'm running around in a circle. I'm running laps around these fuckers. I'm pulling an A train and hoping that I hopefully run these people over and they get obliterated. And then, but that's not the case. I am running around and all I'm doing is spam healing. And this is even worse for bosses. Oh my god, I know I've complained about bosses a lot, and I know it's just like, but FredBread, you're like only talking about bosses are bad. There are some good bosses, I swear to god. We will get to some, and that will be like the major point where how the games just age so much better than others. But the bosses in these recent games have made me question what's wrong with video game developers, or if it's like they're bosses that just have a rod in their butt and then having to control them like a damn puppet. Because there is no way that these game developers played these games and were like, yeah, these bosses are so good. I imagine our players are gonna love this. No, we don't. They're so bad. Get me out. Just end it already. Just end this boss fight. Kill the boss, or find a different way of us killing this damn boss. Because all the bosses I was doing, I was running around in a damn circle, healing up, clicking 1 or 2 spells that did damage, doing that again, doing a bit of damage, and then running around again, healing myself, and then doing it again and hitting them with a little bit of damage. I got an achievement that basically let somebody have a speech just about fighting, and it's an achievement that most people don't get. I think I'm like maybe 5%. It's one of the goldy sparkly ones that Steam gives out, and because I kept running around, because all their damage got so much more higher. Oh my god, by the end of the game it's getting one shot, and they were one-shotting me, and you would have to start it all over again. And finally the king finished his speech. It was like a 5-minute speech, and I'm just running around trying to not die so I don't have to listen to it over again. At the end, oh my god, the mechanics for that one. Oh, this game is don't have a boss like that. Any other game, to any developers, whoever might be watching this, that was awful. Why was it a game of like soccer? What the fuck? I am a wizard. You're a wizard, Harry. I have spells that do damage. So why am I playing soccer with a child at the end? Okay? It doesn't make any damn sense. So fuck the bosses, okay? That last boss took me so much longer than it needed to. And finally, the length and completion time of the game. So this game took me about 5 hours and 15 minutes to complete. It took me about 3 sessions, in which I played the longest session at the end, and I think that session was maybe 2.5 hours. And all in all, there are 9 chapters of the game, with each getting more and more difficult. And if you do happen to own the DLC, there are more things for you to do, more challenges, more things to explore, more multiplayer modes to play with your friends. So for this slice of bread, I am going to give this 2 different ratings based on certain circumstances. If you have friends to play this game, then I see no other rating than a toasted piece of bread. It is great when you play it with friends, and the only reason I say that is because when I played the first one, and I know I don't like to bring up previous games in the series, but when I did play the first one with friends, it was some of the funniest times I ever had playing a game with any of my friends. So if you're used to co-op games and you love to play with friends, and you have friends, because I don't have friends, I do have friends, they're just old, then this game is definitely definitely one that you should pick up, play it with them, and you guys are gonna have an awesome time. The other rating is if you play it solo, then this game is a moldy piece of bread. This game will make you question why you play games. People get home from school and work and they want to escape from reality by playing games that they enjoy. This is not one of them. This is a game that you play when you hate yourself. I don't know what people do in their free time, but I'm a person who doesn't like to actively hate myself. So please, don't play this game if you don't have to. It's not one that you should have to be forced to play if you don't want to by yourself. If you have friends, please do, but if you don't do it. There are plenty other games to play. Like there are plenty of fish of the sea. I'm talking to you, little Johnny. You don't have to keep chasing after that girl. There are other fish in the sea. Her name might be Joanna. I don't know. Joanna, Johnny. Yeah, little Johnny. Little John Bread. Who created bread? John Bread. Ah, yes. Just like our wizard, John Wizard. Anyway, if this video helped you decide on whether or not to play this game from your Breadlog or to purchase to put in your Breadlog for later, please comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It means a lot to me and it lets me know that you guys really enjoy the content. And I can't wait to eat with you all again in about 2 weeks. I tried my best. And again, here are some crumbs from trying to record this voiceover. Strap in, my fellow and I tell you all. I don't know what the hell I'm saying anymore. And the middle mouse button. I already said that. I said that again. This is the second time I've said that.